Annie Omar, founder of the Maison Blanche Paint Company, and today we're going to talk about Crackle. Maison Blanche has two different types of Crackle mediums. Our regular Craque and our Craque Extreme, depending on what you like best. Your regular Craque is going to be a very believable crackle. It's very small. It's going to make your furniture piece look like it maybe got left outside and it's weathered. For more traditional cracks, you're going to use the Craque Extreme, and I'm going to show you both of them. There are several different things that affect your crack size. One of those things is what type of crackle you use. The second thing is what type of tool you use to apply it. So you want a really rough tool like this old beat up chip brush. If you use a nice smooth purdy brush like this, you're not going to get very good cracks. Foam brush, same thing. So you want to use a cheap throwaway rough brush. We're going to start with our regular Craque. Another thing that affects your cracks is how you apply the crackle medium. If you want long linear cracks, then you're going to apply it in a straight line. If you want more random cracks, you're going to do this with your brush in a crosshatch pattern. So for our regular Craque, we're going to do a linear stroke to get some straight cracks. You can really goop this on. Don't be scared. The more you use, the better the cracking. If you're doing this on a surface that's like this, it might drip. So go ahead and turn your furniture piece on its side so that you're not getting drips. Once this dries, I could put a second layer of crack on if I wanted to, but I'm just going to use one coat. These boards are painted with creme de menthe vintage furniture paint. Okay, I'm going to let this dry. Now I'm going to paint with Craque Extreme. These boards I just got at Hobby Lobby. I love that place. And they were just raw wood that I painted with creme de menthe. Okay, for this one I'm going to use a crosshatch pattern to give some random cracks. You'll notice that this has a different consistency than the regular Craque. Another thing that affects your crackles is the temperature and the humidity. If it's raining outside, there's a chance that your cracks could sag. I don't know if y'all have ever done this. I have, where I put crackle on a surface that was going this way and it was raining outside and my paint just started to sag down the surface. So be careful if it's raining and humid, just hold off on your cracking till a dry day comes along. I'm really just gooping it on. This is kind of like a gooey, marshmallowy layer that's going to go between two hard layers of paint. The reason that cracking occurs is because this layer stays kind of gooey. It's not a solid layer, and the paint you put on top is going to dry hard and crack on top of this marshmallowy layer. Now remember, when you apply Craque, you want to make sure that you're applying it on top of already dried vintage furniture paint. Okay, now I'm going to let these dry. Okay, my crackle is all dry. Remember, we started with creme de menthe vintage furniture paint and then a layer of crackle. Now we're going to put another layer of paint on top. This is our regular Craque. Remember, we applied it in a straight up and down manner. You can see that it kind of looks white in certain areas. That's totally normal. When you put your top layer of paint, all of this goes away. So when you see that, don't panic. It's what it's supposed to do. We're going to use the Maison white vintage furniture paint. And you want to make sure that you apply the paint the same way that you apply the crackle. So if you apply the crackle in a straight line, you're going to apply the paint the same way. If you apply the crackle in a crosshatch pattern, you're going to apply the paint the same way. Another thing that affects your cracks, or how big your cracks are, is how much paint you put on here for your top coat. If you put just a little thin layer of paint, you're going to have smaller cracks. If you really goop on a lot of paint, you're going to have bigger cracks. Also, remember that you've got to work very quickly. You lay it on there just as quick as you can, because if you keep brushing and brushing in the same area, you're going to ruin your cracks. You're not going to have cracks at all. So you got to work quickly. I'm going to start with this linear one that we did with the regular Craque, and I'm going to start with my edges. I'm using this chip brush again because that's going to give us really good cracks. Remember, you don't want to use a sponge or a really smooth brush. For maximum cracking, you want an old bristly brush. Okay, now I'm going to put the paint on the top. Remember, straight up and down. I'm really loading up my brush. I'm not overworking. If you see a bare spot, that's okay. It lends to the charm. All right, now on to my Craque Extreme board. Remember, we did a crosshatch motion with our brush, so we're going to repeat that motion. But first, I'm going to do the edges. Okay, now I'm going to do the top. Really loading up my brush again, and crosshatch. Remember, the more paint you put on, the bigger your cracks are going to be. I'm moving very quickly. With the Craque Extreme, you're going to start seeing it crack right away. The regular Craque, it takes a little while, but this is going to start cracking on you right away. It's very important to move quickly. This white paint is going to crack and show the blue-green underneath. All right, I'm going to let this dry. Our top coat of Maison white is all dry. Check out our cracks. Here's the regular Craque that we applied in a linear manner, and look at that, it's really believable. It looks like an old piece of cracked furniture. Now if you like crazy cracks, then the Craque Extreme is for you. We've got lots of cracking going on here. Now, what are we going to do next with these? There are so many things you can do with a plank of wood. You could make this into a plaque. I had my husband drill some holes. We're going to attach two little handles, so this is a little serving tray. To make it even more special, I'm going to use a stencil. This stencil is by Maison Stencils, and I love their stencils. I've applied a little bit of stencil adhesive to make it tacky, and I'm going to position it on my piece. There we go. Now I want my stenciled area to be a little bit transparent or translucent, so I'm going to use Annie's Reserve to stencil with. This color is tobacco. This is actually our tinted furniture glaze, but it's great for this application. I've got a stencil brush here and a piece of cloth. You can use a paper towel. I'm going to dip my brush to get the bristles wet, but I don't want to put all this paint right onto my stencil, so I wipe it off. I want the bristles to be coated but not dripping. Okay, then I'm going to start up in the corner, and I'm going to dab on this Annie's Reserve. I love this tobacco color. Some areas are going to be a little bit lighter, some areas are going to be a little bit darker, and that's how I like it. Okay, I'm going to remove my stencil. And I'm going to let the glaze dry completely before moving on to our next step. Our stenciled area is all dry, and now I'm ready to do a little bit of distressing. It's so pretty already. I've got a sanding block, and I'm just going to lightly sand my stenciled area just to distress it a little bit. I'm also going to distress right around my edges. All right, I think this looks really nice. I'm going to dust off. Now I want to seal this with something to protect it. I'm going to use our satin varnish. This satin varnish is very, very durable, and it's water-based and it's low VOC. We also have satin, but I want to maintain an old chalky look, so I'm going to use the matte varnish this time. I'm going to use my Purdy brush. I'm putting a thin coat, very thin. You can add a second thin coat after this one's dried if you need added durability. This is so pretty. Okay, now I'm going to let this dry. My varnish is dry, and I really love this. I think I'm going to keep it for myself now. And I have my husband here to help me attach the handles.
Cool. There you go.
Thank you. So it's all done, and I think it's going to look really pretty on top of my dresser at home. Thank you so much for watching our video. I hope that you enjoy Crackle as much as I do. Check out our other videos and let us know what you think. I'd also love it if you would share your own photos using the Craque on the Maison Blanche Facebook page. We'll see you next time.